So today we're going to be learning how to make dried floral wreaths just in time for Christmas, and today I'm going to be using my grapevine wreath base. These are great so that you don't have to worry about if you've got little bits exposed. It's going to look cool and sort of rustic no matter what's showing, and so that's why we're going to use these. We've got these in stock at the Flower Project on the website. So some of the items that I've brought today to compile the wreath are these orchid whips. These come from the wholesaler. They're sort of already dried and they dry really well. I've got two different types of leucadendron here. Both are going to look really pretty with their little heads. I've got some erigeum that I pre-dried for a little tint of colour there. I've got some viburnum berries and some of this lovely gypsophila. I actually only bought this morning, and so it's not pre-dried, but once I put it on the wreath it should dry really nicely, so it's fine. I've got for some statement sort of pieces, just to give some sort of chunkiness to some side. I've got this King Protea, which took me about sort of 3 weeks to dry. I started it in water and then I took it out and let it finish off out of water. A couple of big pine cones. I've got pine cones of every size, so you can sort of choose how chunky you want your wreath to be, and use flowers and foliage depending on whether you want it to be delicate or chunky. And I'm going to have sort of a chunky side tapering down into something a bit more sort of exposed and delicate. I've got this copper beech, which I just did a tutorial on how to dry this with your glycerine. So check out that if you want to dry any of your leaves with glycerine. I've got a little bit of white statice here. I didn't want to put too much colour in there, so I've used white statice. Another type of leuco ebony, which I think dries really nicely with sort of this really deep red blacky colour coming through. And lastly, I've got some sticks which just look cool, just can get them off any old tree. Some sticks, some wheat, quite a bit of this around at the moment, lasts forever, and also some of this Basilia berry, which is really cute and gives a little pop of sort of berryness, so that's cool. Right, so how I'm going to start. Also, materials I'm using is, I've got a pair of scissors, I've got two different size secateurs, just in case I want to do a bit more fiddly work and some more chunky cutting for the protea and things. I've got a couple of different size gauge wire, floral wire, which you can pick up from your floral supply store, and I've got my trusty old glue gun. So this is just so that if we're going to do anything that might be a little bit wobbly, we're going to really secure it down. We don't want anything to fall off at any point, and so that's when we have the glue gun, just to sort of really stick it down a little bit more. But you may not need it, but it's always good to have it there. So I'm going to start by putting these orchid whips on. These give great movement to your wreath, and I think it's nice to have a kind of two-tone base, and this is going to be two different tones here. So you can just, the great thing about these wreaths is you can just sort of tuck them in and slot the ends in wherever you can, and it doesn't have to be right up against the wreath. You want to sort of make it feel a bit wild, and so give it a bit more shape. I'm just twisting them around and tucking them in. So that's done, and now I've got quite a bit of movement over here, so I'm going to leave this area as my exposed side, and I'm going to build up with my more chunky flowers on this side. I generally start with the bigger items and then move my way down into smaller items, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. With this big King Protea. I'm going to secure this down with some wire. Now every time you secure anything, you've got to go around at least 3 times. And I'm going to go around the whole entire width of my wreath with this one, just because we're going to be putting things either side, and so you won't see the wire. And because this is such a big heavy item, we really want to secure it down really well with a good sort of 3 times round with the wire. And just tie it off each time. Now I'm going to use something else that's quite chunky, which are these 2 pine cones. Things look good in 3s, so I'm going to put 1 pine cone on the inside of the wreath and 1 pine cone on the outside. So you're sort of going in and out and in and out all the time so that you're getting that nice shape. So with these pine cones, I'm going to use a slightly smaller gauge, and I used to use my drill and drill through and stick a skewer in, and then sort of slot my pine cones in that way using wire, but I used to slip up all the time, and it used to be quite painful getting the drill into the base of the hand. So I just came up with this little idea, which is you just thread the wire through the base of your pine cone. You can't even see it, but now I have a way of attaching my pine cone to the wreath, which is awesome. So I'm going to go around 3 times with that, and then tie it off. And I just tie it off by sort of twirling the pieces of wire around each other, and then you can snip off any excess wire, so there's not too much workings showing. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. So you can see here how I've got one thing going that way, and then that's following that shape, and now we're going to go that way and put a couple of things this side, and then we're going to move into that side and just build on what we've got here, which is our sort of focal point. And you can see I'm just tucking things into each other, and so far I haven't needed to use my glue gun, but I might get to that soon. Can get a bit fiddly with these bits of wire, but it is worth doing it just to really secure down the bits that feel a little bit wobbly. So it is worth taking the time to just secure those bits down. And I just trim off the back and tuck that down. I'm coming around this direction and putting a bit of movement coming this side. So from this end we're coming up, and then from this end we're coming down, sort of tapering off into a sort of open space in this area. And when you start doing a wreath, you never really sort of know what it's going to look like in the end, and that's sort of the beauty of it. It sort of evolves as you're making it. And so far I'm really pleased with the way this one's turning out. Just putting a bit of this copper beech in, which gives that beautiful depth of colour. That's not so easy, I might glue gun that bit. Yay, get to use the glue gun. I'm going to put a bit of glue gun here. My shaky hand. Give it a little bit of help, and I'll hold that there for a moment. You can keep on working if you're holding something like this down. You can keep on working with the other hand while you do that. Okay, so when you sort of have done the bulk of it, it's a good idea to start to think about holding it up, having a look and just seeing where the gaps are so that you can fill those in and sort of start to finish off. So, looking pretty good, but I can see there's a bit of a gap there that I want to fill, and I think it needs a bit more volume on that side just to finish it off. So there we have it. I think I'm done. They say less is more, but it's easy to just keep on going and going with these things because you get carried away. So it's hard to know when to stop. But you can just keep on going if you want and just make it even more bigger and bushier and more beautiful. But I think this is just about right for what I'm after. It's got a good amount of weight in this corner, tapering up to a more open space up here, and this is where I would hang it from this end. And later on I'll be putting up a tutorial on like good ways to hang your wreaths and display them. But yeah, for now that is the tutorial on how to make a dried floral wreath.